It's a Russian doll of intelligent stupidity. But I especially loved when Butthead said, yeah, go die for Israel's wars, Beavis.
Yeah, we're going to score. Let's play. We're going to segue, hard turn into the whole Israel conversation. We're going to let you go, Seven, but I want you to watch this video real quick, okay?
Yeah.
Let's do this, Colby. Can we just play the Beavis and Butthead, then we'll come back and we'll let Seven tell us how everybody can follow him, and then we'll dive into the nitty-gritty Israel crap.
It's a great idea.
Cool. All right, guys. I busted this out earlier today. I was watching some other show covering this Pete Hegseth thing from a couple days ago. The what is he? The Secretary of Defense? Like literally, like the guy that was like a Fox News host who's now like in charge of the military. Like, what clown world are we? Are we still? I think we're still in clown world, guys. We've been talking about clown world for 5 years now. I think we're kind of still in clown world. Anyway, I was just like listening to what he was saying. I'm like, okay, this has to be a Beavis and Butthead reaction video because it's that retarded. So anyway, without further ado, here you go. Hey, Beavis, you know that Fox News guy that's now in charge of the military? He's about to give a speech.
Whoa, really? What's he going to be talking about?
Well, Beavis, hopefully they're going to do what they should have done a long time ago. Rounded all you liberals up into camps.
Shut up, butthead. I'm not a liberal. I just don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, you're uninformed. Okay, shut up. Here he goes.
All right, we're back with another update on cutting wasteful spending here at DOD, and this one is, as they say, a big one.
You hear that, Beavis? He's got a big one for you.
Yeah, a big load of crap.
You're just jealous that this dude gets hammered all the time and scores with lots of chicks.
Didn't you get in trouble for that?
Yeah, but when you work for President Donald Trump, you can grab chicks wherever you want and get away with it.
Whoa, really? That rules.
Yeah.
Directing the termination of $5.1 billion in DOD contracts. Not million, that's with a B. $5.1 billion in DOD contracts for consulting services from Accenture, Deloitte, Booz Allen, and other firms.
You know, this guy knows a thing or two about booze.
By the way, we need this money to spend on better health care for our warfighters and their families instead of $500.
You hear that, Beavis? They're taking money away from black people and they're giving it to war fighters.
Yeah, we gotta go fight some wars.
Yeah, we just need to sign up for the military and maybe we can get some of that money.
Yeah, and then we can go to other countries and blow them up. Fire.
Yeah, and then all those chicks whose houses get blown up, they'll probably be down to score.
Whoa, that's a great idea, butthead.
Yep, Beavis, it looks like it's time for you to go die for Israel.
On top of that, in support of the president's priorities to stop federal funding for academic institutions that tolerate anti-Semitism and support divisive DEI programs, this week, DOD is also pausing over $500 million in funding to Northwestern University and Cornell University, and that's on top of the $70 million in funding we've already paused at Columbia, Penn, Brown, and Princeton over the last few weeks, as if any of these institutions need more government money at all.
My face hurts from laughing.
There you go. Yeah, I mean that's what happened to anti-Semitism. It's like when you kick somebody in the nads and then they cry about it, you get to call them an anti-Semite. Pretty much just it.
So are those voices you, Scott?
Yeah, man. Yeah, pretty cool.
Wow. Really close. And being able to do both of them, man, that's impressive.
Well, it's like you got to record them. Like I kind of type up a script and then you overlap. You got to do a little chuckle before an end on each one of them. Then you overlap the chuckles and it just kind of just blows.
Yeah, that was spot on.
Yeah, there
Channeled the spirit of Mike Judge there, and yeah. I think even though he's still alive, he would be happy to see that his art is continuing on to be remixed in that way.
Exactly. It's fun. It's fun, dude. It's like my joy in life. It's like I hear some news story. I'm like, okay, what would be their take on this? It's like it's genius, and this is what I've always loved and respected about the genius of Beavis and Butthead. Because on the surface, it's so dumb, but it allows you to do such deep layered, because like their stupidity and their reaction to the stupidity is like a reflection of the stupidity of the thing itself.
Yes.
You know, and so it's like it magnifies the stupidity of the already stupid thing. It's just like this genius paradigm. That's why it's so genius. I think the Beavis and Butthead thing is it just allows for the magnification of stupidity in an incredibly genius comedic way. Like it's timeless.
It's a Russian doll of intelligent stupidity. But I especially loved when Butthead said, "Yeah, go die for Israel's wars, Beavis."
Yeah, we're gonna score. So funny. Anyway, thank you guys. So I just wanted to share that with you, Seven. But dude,
Yeah, that was great.
thanks, man. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. That's freaking amazing. I love everything you're doing. Probably have to have you back.
Wait a minute.
I wanted to meet Seven before he split, dude. What's up? I saw your brain model type thing earlier, and I want to be able to say hi. We can check out models and compare notes. I was really excited about that. And yeah, I heard a lot of good things from you about you from Scott. And you were at the Tennessee gig last week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome to Grand Theft World, bro. Good to make your acquaintance.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. And I've heard nothing but the same about you. I've managed to check out your model. I'm gonna say yours is a lot more in depth, I think, than mine. Where mine
I like how yours is all on one wall, though, and you can cruise around like that. So also and not either or.
Yeah. I'd love to get in touch with you and see what we can do, like compare notes and stuff.
We're gonna have you back on the show. We'll just do it live.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then everyone grows, and then people at home learn to do what we learn to do, and check out the individual parts, how they fit together, and find the contradictions and like find like truth. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
So
all about that.
And is that like a wall behind you, a green screen? Like how? Like I understand you have a light behind you to cause that effect with the nice soft drop off, but it looks better than a green screen usually does. So I didn't know if you didn't have a background or what the situation was. So I just figured I'd ask.
Yeah. When so before I ever got into like researching and stuff like that, I just had it for because sometimes my room's a mess.
So it is a green screen, not a green wall.
Correct.
All right, cool. And that's like Zoom chroma key, or how are you doing the chroma key?
Yeah, I'm doing the chroma key filter through OBS, and then that
cool.
allows me to do the obsidian stuff behind me, like the maps and stuff.
When Paul and I learned how to chroma key back in the day, the software to do it was $1,000, and it was called Ultra, wasn't it, Paul? Wasn't that the name of it?
Yeah. Ultra CS3.
And we used it for What You've Been Missing, which some people saw a couple weeks ago. But
that was back when it would take an hour to key something out.
So like when you hopped on earlier, I was like, when I get on there, I'm going to ask him like, "Hey bro, what's your real name?" And then you got asked and I heard, and I was like, word,
Yeah.
But my name's been out there for a long time, but I respect that. So way to play it.
Happy to share it in private. And it's
for sure, dude. Yeah. But I understand, especially in the heated context of these days and the recent goings on. Smart, well played, smarter than I'm doing.
And
I got to get smarter. Yeah.
No, it's largely like I'm not worried about the consequences for myself. I'm 2A and got security cameras, all that stuff. But I have a girlfriend here and a family here and stuff.
Well, you just saw that. Who was the clip we played last week with the woman who's I don't know, she's some sort of online celebrity, and they broke into her house, and it was on
Amaranth, streamer.
Okay, yeah, because we saw it on Colonial Noir, and then we saw the interview of them talking about the security footage. So yeah, there's a lot of nonsense and shenanigans going on these days, and I think it just means that what we're doing is very important, and it needs to get out there even more. So shenanigans don't have to go on. Like Americans are Americans. We don't all have to be like red team, blue team at each other's throats, like fighting with each other for nonsense, because the elite have a saying, they who they would seek to rule, they first divide. Who the gods would seek to conquer, they first divide. Something like that. It's a divide and conquer quote. And what time zone are you in, Seven?
Central.
Oh, right on. All right, cool. So it's not that late for you yet. That's good.
Not yet.
Well, when you have time in the future, come back and hang out. And there's lots more to talk about. And the gist is every week we just take the news and smash it into a little history. And we learn some stuff along the way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Happy to be back anytime. Really enjoyed hanging out with Scott a couple weekends ago, and actually planning on doing something in person in our town here soon. So date tentative right now, but I'm working on some printed materials and things like that. Anytime you guys want to have me on, I'm happy to be back. And
Cool. Where can people follow you? Do you have like a link tree or socials?
yeah, I've got my Twitter, or X is where I'm the most active, and I have a link tree there that links everyone to the different platforms and stuff that I stream, and my live streams and stuff is where we do all that live mapping and sort of crowdsource the truth, because I'm sure you know this stuff is way too much for one person to kind of take on, and I have a principled stance against using AI for anything. I know it seems a little irrational in today's
Man, you
times,
followed me first. I gotta follow you back. Everyone who's watching, you gotta follow. There you go. Following now. All right, please go. I cut you off. Sorry about that.
All good, all good. But you know, I take a principled stance against like using AI for basically anything if I can help it. So bringing in other people and collaborating and stuff like that, man, is so powerful.
You know what? You could start an app for like AI confessionals. So like I only used ChatGPT like 3 times in the last year, but I used it 5 times in the last month. So I went a long time without using it. And then I was like, oh, it would help me do this. And if I put this list, so like I did an interview with my buddy last week who he has a religious exemption on his farm and they were trying to take it away. And he had sent me this long summary. And I thought, ChatGPT, can you write me some 60-minute style questions? And it did pretty good. And it brought out some legal precedents I wouldn't have found on my own, right? But otherwise, I know how to summarize. I know how to do all the stuff. So I really shouldn't use that cane if I don't need it. So thank you. Thank you for being an evangelist for not destroying humanity with technology, because I think we probably need more of that.
That'd be a good autonomy course, is critical thinking in the age of AI, because, you know, we're leading down a path to everyone's going to outsource all their thinking to AI.
Well, Seven, if you would like to come up with an outline for a course like Scott just described without using AI, I would be happy to figure out how we could make something like that happen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll shoot you a message either early tomorrow or sometime in the afternoon and see what we can cook up.
Now, shoot Scott a message, because I'm bad with messaging these days. I'm triple booked for.
Yep, I'm your liaison. I'm
the spring.
I'm the guest liaison for Grand Theft Auto. So, which is awesome, dude. We got lots of guests coming on soon, guys.
Well, actually, Seven's the first guest that Scott brought on, because I texted Scott this week. I'm like, I'd like to bring guests back in, but I don't have time for the comms. Could you just handle that? And he's like, yeah.
I already got the schedule filled up, baby. It'd be great. You guys are in for some real gravy.
Well, that's good. So, I wanted to tap in because not only Beavis versus Butthead, but Tim versus Kim and Dave versus Douglas Murray. I wanted to make sure we talked about those things tonight. Yep. Because I too heard so many times from that Douglas Murray clip. Did you hear it, Seven? The Joe Rogan clip? I guess it's like almost 3 hours. But yeah.
I've seen it posted. I have some proclivities against Joe Rogan just because I've like dove into his sponsors and stuff like that. And,
for sure. But as far as the argument that they were kind of like not debating.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big nothing burger from a comedian who thinks he's a political commentator because he went to a libertarian conference once, and then a guy that's just been groomed by Paul Singer's Manhattan Institute. So I was like, I'm good. I'll pass on this.
Yeah, well. Yeah, well, it's interesting, but I think Colby had played. I heard Tim Pool being played, and there might be Tim Pool to play us out tonight, because I heard that earlier. I was laughing my ass off. Dude.
Yeah,
Tim Pool music to play us out.
Because you remember how I was telling you, like, you know, it's sometimes it gets a little contentious between us and the chat. And then
I was watching the the Rumble on the way home while I was eating.
I like to troll they troll us, so I troll them back live, and they can just kiss my ass. I love you guys. Of course.
Decentralize control. Yeah. Don't try to control.
Yeah. So when do you do your live stream, crowdsourcing, and all that stuff, Seven? Like what's the slot for that?
Wednesdays 4 to 8 p.m. Central Time, and Thursdays same time.
Awesome.
And
that's like serious. That's nice.
Yeah. everyone's allowed in the chat, and it's like where they like people will provide sources or be like, hey, did you know this person's also involved in this? And we'll go check it out, and I'll show people like, you know, you should check through multiple sources and try to reference like official records and things to teach people like how I do my research and stuff.
That's right, because it's not about what to think, it's about how to think. And then if we show examples of how we're doing it for ourselves and people don't like it, then they're free to go do it for themselves and find, you know, contrary information. Then we can have a conversation, because I think people grow, like debate in a certain structure can help the audience grow, but all too often it's just a bunch of nonsense, right? So if you have a debate structure where it's like about enriching the audience so they understand both sides and they can make an informed decision, that'd be cool. I don't really see that out there. I had a show title, it was called Mass Debate, but then, you know, when you get the URL, it's like all sorts of other traffic came in. I didn't know what to do with that. So that show's like mothballed for now.
I gotcha. Yeah, it's rare to see a debate these days where two people have the opposing arguments and then actually come to some sort of compromise or like a change of mind or change of opinion.
That they're each willing to review each other's evidence and come back and be like, dude, I watched that documentary. I see what you're talking about. Or I read that book, right? One of my Autonomy graduates, Phoenix, he has an idea for a show. I don't want to out his show, but it's a really unique take on the debate format that's super freedom friendly and voluntary. And I've never really seen before, but we ran a prototype of it last year for like 4 hours at Porkfest. And I do have some footage of like what the prototype looks like, but it would be cool to have a production of that, because I think it would draw a wide crowd of people who are there to understand, instead of like red team versus blue team. My guy won tonight. No, my guy won tonight. It's like, I think we all lost because there's real evidence that could be discussed that wasn't. And I will credit that to Douglas Murray doing that. He ran the table the whole time.
Yeah, he was also king of the fallacies during that. There's you could probably do a fallacy counter and get up to around 30, 40 different kinds that he used.
Paul, you can't talk about fallacies because you weren't in ancient Greece when they created the fallacies.
That's a good point. I forgot the qualifications to be an expert.
You have to go to Oxford.
Yep, that's never gonna get old.
All right, Seven, I'll let you tag out or I'll let you hang out. It's up to you, bro, but I just didn't want you to have to like linger and wonder when the right time to like tag out of this call. You might have other things to do tonight too.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, I've got a couple things going on, but happy to be back anytime you guys want to have me. And you know, outside of my streaming times, I'm usually pretty free. So anytime you guys want to chat. Thanks for having me again.
Hey, thanks. You got great production value too, man.
Appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, good lighting, good audio. That's almost. I need to step up my game a little bit. All right, man. Nice meeting you.
Man. Hey, you guys have a good night.
Good chatting with you.
Dude. Cool.
Well played, guys. I saw your show card. You got the whole night planned out and everything. I'm not going to come in and wreck any of your plans, but I did want to talk Tim Kim, and then I wanted to talk about Douglas versus Dave.
We're totally game for it.
We've already heard from Beavis and Butthead.
Did you get a chance to check that out? Did you see that?
It's fucking hilarious. Dude.
Okay, cool. As long as
yeah. I had it on my phone. I was watching on Rumble before, and then my wife told me that Rumble's like 10 seconds behind her Zoom call. So she's like, "Oh, you're listening to what already happened," and my family's in town, so I got to have family dinner at like whatever 10 o'clock, whenever we got back. And then I was doing demolition on a renovation all day, so I had to like wash myself, make myself presentable. And I started work today at noon for Q&A with Autonomy. So I just been like, I try to get the most out of my 168 hours per week, and I'm down to managing the minutes. I'm going to stay away from managing seconds because that would be too stressful. But I get like the maximum out of like every minute during the day when you're in growth mode. Not comfort mode, but growth mode, yeah. So it's good. Do you have a block lined up next? Is it the Tim Kim?
Yeah, I think it's the, let's see.
Tim and Kim is in there. Yeah.
Okay, so there's Tim, he made a post, then Kim made a post. And then Tim clapped back, and then Kim made a post about that. That's the one I want. The one where she shows him talking smack against her. And I thought that was the one I showed to other people, because I'm like, check this out. I'm like, she's been on his show. Like, they know each other. but he said some stuff that I was like, I'm unconvinced by your argument, because that's not an argument. That's just kind of name calling. And I know a lot about Chatham House rules, all that sort of stuff. So I was like keen to get to this clip. Likewise, Dave Smith may be a comedian, but I'm a forensic historian, and I got some facts for that situation to bring to bear. But yeah, what do you guys got lined up? Let me check the chat over here.
Yeah, so this one we got Ben Shapiro ripped apart for garbage Israel take. So we're doing a Ben Shapiro takedown too. So we're doing a Timmy and a Ben takedown all in one freaking block here.
Who picked the title for tonight's show?
That was Paul.
That was Paul. Well played. LD made the thumbnail. You know, I've completely forgot about that part. I forgot to. So I was just like, I was on my way today, and I like got this text out to you and to Scott and to Paul, and I forgot. I didn't think about the title for tonight's show, which I usually text to LD like around, I don't know, 7 o'clock or something. I didn't think about it till I saw it on screen. I was like, oh, damn good title. Well played. Like, I didn't even tell you guys, like, hey, tell LD to make a thumbnail on the title. Otherwise, he's going to be waiting for me, and I had my hands full.
Yeah. Pretty self-organizing, apparently. It just kind of happened.
Very self-organizing.
We don't need a government. We can just figure it out.
Trained your Padawans quite well as well. So, you know, I give credit to Lisa. She talked about Chatham House rules in a posting she made of the Tim stuff. And I was like, yeah, these guys are a bunch of Chatham House fools. just fit together.
Yeah. The whole well, there was also Blair House this week. Who was staying in Blair House, which is the guest house of the White House. So how'd it work out? When George Orwell wrote 1984, he wrote it in Bush House, and then W. Bush, when they were working on the White House, he stayed in Blair House, because they were comparing like Bush to 1984 and Orwell back then during the post 9/11 war on terror type of days. But yeah, those comparisons might still be made today. There might still be some sort of tyranny and fascism going on out in the world, and it might not be just like one side or the other. It might be a group manipulating both sides, like that scene from, it's not Dr. No. What is it? From Russia with Love. It's the opening scene where they have the fighting fish. And then he's like, we let the two fish fight until one dies and the other one is exhausted. And then we eat them, you know? It's that type of stuff they're doing. Or the other good one, this makes a better meme. It's red ants and black ants in a jar. And then on the label, it says, shake the jar. So the red ants and then black ants, they're just attacking each other because they're like, what's going on? But really, someone else is shaking the jar. And that's like the New World Order. They're the jar shakers. I didn't know how to bring that around. All right, so Tim plus Kim equals controversy. Many videos, many hits. Maybe they conspired. You know, maybe, what is it? 10 core. What was that Russian place paying Tim? Like maybe without that money, in the absence of that Russian money, maybe they got together and they're like, look, I could call you this and you could call me that. Is that too pro wrestling for influencers who are like our peers? Probably. I don't think they're
maybe, dude. Like Tim Pool's like the convergence of all of these different, like the Tenet Media, Daily Wire, Netanyahu. It's like, okay, we know what's going on.
Here's what's really confusing. Tim Pool, out of the Douglas Murray, Dave Smith debate, Tim Pool sides with Dave Smith, but he only talks about the history that would support Douglas Murray, about Israel specifically. And I just thought that was an interesting point. Like if you wrote down the points, he would totally agree with Douglas Murray, but because his friends are libertarian and Dave's a libertarian, so he's going to, maybe.
I think Tim Pool sees himself as sitting on the fence with his legs out on the Israel side, where he's like, well, you know, I don't want to bet against the Zionists, but, you know, I'm also like not a monster, but it's like he knows what side his bread is buttered on. And that seems to be sort of a contingent, right? All the people who released the Epstein file binders all have that in common. Same with most of Trump's cabinet all have that in common.
Yeah, they do.
It's just an aspect, a policy aspect that's just like super locked down. And I was curious to your thoughts about Douglas Murray because he's pushing this new book, right? And right after his disastrous appearance on Rogan, then Trump promotes this like really ill-timed tweet being like, Douglas Murray's new book is brilliant and he's great. And so I was curious, like, if you had Douglas Murray, Trump, and Rogan in a room, how would that conversation go? Because Rogan was clearly seeing through Douglas Murray's bullshit, like seeing the fallacies, and Dave was calling out the fallacies in real time.
Rogan should have Kurt sit like in his corner, tag team with that.
Should have you on, man.
Well, you know,
one of these guys.
Trickle down.
You and Kurt together would be a great combination.
Trickle down theory. I mean, you know,
Israel will just be like, okay, fine, we lose, we're done. We'll go back to Ukraine. Fine.
All the Zionist leaders do come from like 60 miles from this, you know, around one city in like Ukraine, Poland. So, you know, there's that. And they also thought, maybe our last names aren't the right last names to be over there at this time. And also Yiddish, which was widely spoken, they're like, no, that's not going to be the official language. We're going to bring back, you know, keeping it in the vibe of 3,000 years ago. If they're going to, you know, if they're going to front as a group, right? It's like they're masters of disguise, because it is kind of a disguise type of situation. Like maybe I'm from one of the other 12 tribes, right? Was, you know, because we're 12 tribes, or which one are they from? Because maybe I'm from the other one. I don't know, man. There's a lot of stories out there. That's why it's good to compare stories to reality and, you know, leave entertainment to entertainment. Right? There's a lot of entertaining stories. And you guys made that point earlier that there's also a lot of gruesome, grotesque stories in just about all the major books, whether it's Christianity, Islam, Judaism. To hear the EU lady over there talking about how they like historically hold the Talmud as the center of their society and stuff like that. Which aspects? Because, you know, you might say, oh, these people only talk about the bad aspects. I'm like, well, if you add all the good aspects and you include the bad aspects, like how's it weigh out when you put it all there? Like if Jesus said mostly good stuff and then he was like, here's some bad stuff, right? And then people were like, wow, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, people will apologize for Trump and he'll say something and they'll be like, well, he's not really saying that, right? Well, you know, how's it work with people in the past? And I think the only violence Jesus took in those stories was to overturning the money changers' tables. And he came from their group. He's like, hey, what you're doing is wrong. And then he made his own group. And then stroke of brilliance, if you're going to grow your group, drop the mandated circumcision thing. And then they were able to become the largest group of believers in the world, allegedly. I haven't counted them all. But there's a lot of Muslims too. So, you know, wait out. How about 1 billion Hindus over there? Not 1 billion, because part of India is also Muslim. That's the Pakistan part over there. Because anyway, they've had lots of troubles over there, mostly stirred up by the British Empire, which also stirs up trouble over here, which is what Douglas Murray was just coming over here. You don't see Dave Smith going over there and talking smack on King Chucky III, though he probably could. You don't see that much.
Well, that's ultimately what you saw. The schism is that Douglas Murray is taking the British pompous, like only the experts can talk about any particular thing. And if you're not like a journeyman in studying that thing, then you have no right to say it in a public platform. So he's making the sort of leftist, you're platforming the wrong people argument. And Dave Smith shut him down and just said, I'm an American. I can talk about whatever the hell I want. And it's not, you don't have a right to shut me down just because you don't like what I'm saying. And so that's where you're seeing the ultimate British and American philosophies of speech just running up against each other. And this is the reason why you don't want Britain imposed onto America, is because that's emblematic of what's going to happen, is they'll shut down the speech they don't like.
I know that you guys played the quartering clip earlier that kind of referred to this Dave Smith, Douglas Murray debate. How I took it, I haven't seen the whole thing, but I started checking it out this morning, and here's how I saw it. It's like a duel, and Dave Smith shows up for the duel, and Douglas Murray shows up for the duel. And just as they're about the duel, Douglas Murray's like, hey, I don't like your dueling pistol. Daryl Cooper had a dueling pistol just like that, and he's not an expert. And for 2 hours, they talk about Daryl Cooper, who's not even in the room, by the way. And to me, it was Douglas Murray's way of coming in, steering the conversation to a place he could continue to manipulate it, and letting Rogan and Dave Smith go, what the fuck is going on? I thought we were going to have a conversation here. right? So,
well,
I haven't listened to Daryl Cooper's 30-hour podcast, but I made some long form podcasts back in the day, once upon a time, and I am familiar with Daryl Cooper's views, his sources of research, his adjacent authors who have like the synergistic work that help you understand all these types of things. And I know that condemnation prior to observation is the epitome of ignorance, which Douglas Murray knows too. He just expects you not to know that.
Which
this
is why
it's not about that.
Well, that's why he makes those arguments saying you can't criticize Israel if you haven't been there, but I'm going to criticize the work, this 30-hour podcast, even though I've never listened to even 5 minutes of it.
Not only that, but not criticize Israel if you've never been there. How about we're paying for it? Tax dollars from this country have been going to that country for a long time. So I think I should have a say. It's like being a shareholder kind of in that endeavor, right? Because if you're going to extort from us and take it and put it over there to artificially hold them up just because they blackmailed some people here for funding the Nazis, like, I don't know, maybe you got another thing coming. I don't know. Maybe, people learn a little bit more about history than the public narrative can withstand. And that threatens people like Douglas Murray, who have never like, for instance, I pulled this out earlier today for students of Autonomy at a point when we were talking about the Prussian education system. What we ended with last week, the Illuminati created the Prussian education system, brought it to America. And this book right here was written by a Rhodes Scholar who's part of the conspiracy to take over America. He was the Librarian of Congress. So if you can control the official history in America, that's a pretty important position. And then he tells you the history of secret societies in such a way that is much more credible in a much broader, detailed tapestry of reality than anything Douglas Murray's bringing to the table, because he can only talk about the official narrative talking points. He would not be able to talk about Moses Hess, the father of utopian socialism, who came up with the idea of, that was the first non-Anglo idea of restoring the Jews to Palestine. But you can go back to the 1840s, Lord Palmerston and Lord Shaftesbury, I think it was, had these proclamations. Now, you might say some of those proclamations might have been racist. Okay, well, that's the same type of people who funded the Nazis. So to their point about Daryl Cooper saying that stuff about Winston Churchill, that he may have been like the second maniac in that situation, like there's a lot of truth to that, because Hitler was defeated. Allegedly, maybe he went to Argentina, but he was smuggled there by the rat lines that were the Vatican, MI6, and CIA, or OSS back then, if you want to be technical about it. And the fact that MI6 had set up headquarters in New York City, in Nelson Rockefeller's building, tells me they probably could blackmail him, because they were also funding the Nazis, but the Americans didn't think to blackmail the Brits. You can also point to the two world wars that were a pretty big deal in the 20th century, and I can prove that Great Britain and Winston Churchill played a pivotal part in getting America into the war on their side. And then when you get to World War II, it's a similar thing. It's intelligence games and them planning Pearl Harbor and knowing about it and not telling the Americans, so that we got into the war again on their side, when over a third of Americans were from German extraction as well as British extraction, English extraction. So they've been playing games, and F around, find out.
Well, yeah, I think the fact Douglas Murray shuts down the conversation when it leads to the Treaty of Versailles, or talking about Woodrow Wilson creating the income tax, and knowing that those are historical events that lead to certain places. Yeah. And like unfortunately, Dave Smith doesn't get into them. But if, a forensic historian of your caliber happened to be there, they would have absolutely mopped the floor with Douglas Murray, because you would have seen through the fallacies and had the historical facts to back up everything that you're talking about.
Yeah, and the good thing is I don't need to take my whole library with me. I know enough to recall, so Jamie can look it up. So I'd say, Jamie, go to Margaret Macmillan's Paris 1919, and let's go to the last chapters in here. What are they talking about on these last chapters? Who's this contingent? Oh, it's the Zionists cutting deals. Balfour Declaration, page 420. Palestinians, people who lived there before their land was given away by the British to a group that was led by an international banking family that had similar objectives of conquest over America. So the British Zionists, land without a people, people without a land, they coined that phrase. So anyway, there's a lot of history, and that's during the Versailles Treaty, because they had, well, there was a more famous piece. Let's see. The guy from the Woodbury Soap Company, Facts Are Facts, Benjamin Friedman. It's a book on Amazon. It's also a recording, and we've played the 1961 Willard Hotel speech at least once. He had been given that speech for 20 years, and that was like when he was going bankrupt from telling people what happened. And he was a part of the Zionist contingent at the Versailles Treaty. He says, I know I was there. I should know I was there. That's like the famous quote out of the whole thing. So there's someone from inside who's very much a whistleblower, like Alfred Zimmern, who blows the whistle for Carol Quigley's Anglo-American establishment. There are such credible pieces. Like, these are incredible pieces of history. The last will and testament of Cecil Rhodes by William T. Stead, incredible piece of history, should be taught like on PBS. This should be stuff that like everyone, public broadcasting, everyone knows this stuff. It should just be out there. And then you could be on guard against this group of people who are internationalists, globalists, Fabian socialists. Do I still have that up? There we go. That was useful. And these people are wolves in sheep's clothing. That's not a euphemism. They literally have a logo that is the wolf in sheep's clothing. And I told the class earlier today that they have this stained glass in there, and they're pounding the world into their image with these big hammers. That's the Nazi contingent of the British Empire, Fabian socialism. It's also, it brings all these ills down today of the cybernetics and the surveillance state, all that type of stuff. These are the people that were interested in doing such things. They all play like on the same team.
Yeah, it's all fascism at the end of the day. What they've gotten better at is learning how to use PR to water down our resistance to it and repackaging it into other types of forceful rule. But at the end of the day, it's still a merger between state and corporation to, whether it's forced products or forced laws on people, then yeah, the whole idea is just, you will be regimented, you will be controlled, and your behaviors and tastes shaped. And whereas it was more overt before, now it's a little more covert. Maybe it's time they're going to make it more overt again, or we won't have the capacity to recognize it being done to us.
Ooh. Page 188. All right, check this out. I happened to find on my shelf another little known book, The Peace Conference. You see who it's edited by? Edward Mandell House.
No way.
And Charles Seymour. And Charles Seymour wrote those red books up there, the private papers of Colonel House by Charles Seymour. So what really happened at Paris? The Peace Conference, edited by Edward Mandell House and Charles Seymour of Yale University. If we go to page 188 and 190, first they talk about the Armenian problem. Let me zoom out so you can see some of the stuff, because there was a genocide about to happen over there. So they have a large section on World War I, the Armenian problem, protection of minorities, the trial of the Kaiser. I went too far in the book. I should look at the numbers, not the words. All right. Oh, look, I have a card there. Maybe we've seen this section before. So this talks all about the Zionist delegation and Chaim Weizmann and what they were there to do, along with their American and British delegations. And the Bolshevik Revolution had just gone on, and now there's a similar overlap of Eastern European people that might have also like participated in some of the communist shenanigans, but right now we're just focusing on the Zionist contingent. So there's two sections that discuss, says the Zionist movement for separation of Palestine, a place, wait, I thought Palestine didn't exist. And let me see just real quick, when was this book published? So we have context, right? This is 1921. This is the same year that they founded the Council on Foreign Relations. Okay, and this is a first edition. And if I could find the place I was just reading from, it'll make more sense then. The Zionist movement for separation of Palestine and a special regime to ensure the establishment of the Jewish homeland was bitterly opposed by Syrian proteges of France. That's the Picot side of the Sykes-Picot agreement. Less markedly, and with vacillating, that means going back and forth, policy by the Arab group of Faisal. That's Prince Faisal. You see him in Lawrence of Arabia. Let me get it on screen for you. Behind all these conflicting local hatreds and ambitions, more confused and complicated, in fact, than they can be possibly represented here, lay always the secret agreements. These treaties were the handiwork of the old-style diplomatic craftsmanship of European officialdom. Sanctified by the signatures of the governments concerned, they remained in the background. So they're talking about how they drew up Sykes-Picot before they even had any of this other conflict going on. And that secret deal continues to this day because Sykes-Picot preceded Balfour Declaration. And what is Sykes? Well, who is Sykes and who's Picot? There's a guy from France. There's a guy from Britain. There's also a Rothschild family from Britain and one from France that were both instrumental in the creation and building of Israel, first by colonizing Palestine. Proto-colonization starts officially in the 1800s. It's two Rothschilds in the land of Palestine, I think, is one of the books. I mean, I have tons of books on these. But the point is, if I brought up a fact like that about a book, it's printed by Hebrew University, Douglas Murray would call you a name. Instead of saying, oh, dude, can I get that book? I want to read it. Curiosity learns that kind of indignation and red herring fallacy. That's not learning. That's a gatekeeper. That's a gatekeeper right there. He's not like the rest of us, right? He's not into questioning everything and finding out. Because if you question it, you learn. It's not about questioning it to undermine it. It's about questioning things to understand them. And when you start questioning, like, what is this magazine? Because the Council of Foreign Relations was made in 1921, the same time as this book that we just read from the Paris Peace Conference. And what is this all about? A British installation in our country starting in 1921 to create a magazine in 1924 called Foreign Affairs. It comes from the Journal of Race Relations by Thorsten Veblen, the guy who came up with conspicuous consumption. So Foreign Affairs operates as like the next step after what really happened at Paris. They're conducting their global game, their great game. And you have a British Israel World Federation that got together, and part of that's the receipt that is the Balfour Declaration. It's a receipt for property. And so when you get into any of these topics, like you can't get away from going back to the source of who is the international banking family instrumental in doing all this. You're not allowed to talk about them because gatekeepers. That's it. They'll name call you. But if you got the facts, they definitely don't want to debate.
So when a gatekeeper like Douglas Murray goes on Joe Rogan and performs so sloppily, what do you think is the outcome?
The outcome is a bunch of noise in the system because, everyone who likes Douglas Murray thinks he won. Everyone who likes Dave Smith thinks he won. But the audience still has yet to really understand either of those sides, basically because Rogan didn't run the interview, like have questions and have conversation. Douglas Murray came in and he's like, I have questions about this. And you haven't had enough of these people on. And what about this over here? And he is just like, as long as he had a list of critiques, you could never like actually be like, okay, let's put some stuff on the table here. Like, when did this all become so important to U.S. foreign policy? Before or after they, MI6 created the Saudi royal family? Was it before or after that? Was it before or after the Balfour Declaration? Was it before or after the Pilgrim Society decides to jack America and put it back into the empire? Was it before or after 1828 Rothschilds to buy all of Palestine from the Niles Weekly Register? Or 1830s, like there's a whole bunch of those types of articles. So when it foreshadows real events that unfolded later, you have to say maybe there was some human to that rument. Piece of glass in my finger.
Well, and it's funny because Dave Smith brought up like trying to build a path for how people arrive, critical of Zionism in Israel, saying like, a lot of people have lost trust in the experts, especially around COVID. And so they're kind of like going, well, if they lied to me about this, what else has been a lie? And so they're knocking on all the ideas that they previously believed in and seeing if there's any integrity there. And no joke, Douglas Murray goes, okay, I can understand that, but does that mean we have to lift the sewer gates all the way up?
And what does that mean?
You just called him a gatekeeper, and it just clicked for me that he is there to keep the gates on the sewer from being lifted, but he describes the sewer as being all these terribly dangerous ideas, whereas we see the sewer grate letting out the cold, hard, greasy truth that everyone needs to know.
Yeah. Two of the books I was going to bring, there's one called Friendly Fire. If you guys look that up, that's got Churchill on the front, and it's a great big thick book like this. And it's basically like how Britain kind of waged war on America in a very secret, stealthy, cunning. I respect the cunningness. I don't respect the unethical, like lying to us. Like, come on, we're supposed to be cousins, man. And the other one was, I think it's by Tariq Ali, and it's like the whole shit talking book on Churchill. I have it right here. And I got the title. I got the name. I got the author's name right. I have not read this yet, but I saw interviews talking about this book and giving references from the book. So then I bought the book, but I haven't yet read it. So this I have yet to have an opinion on. I just have it in waiting. I don't have to have an opinion on this book. But Friendly Fire is a really interesting book. I was reading Friendly Fire also alongside like a bunch of Neil Ferguson official histories of the Rothschild family and the world finances and stuff like that. But I know enough about Churchill to be like, I need to read this book because he was involved with some things from an American perspective that are very, in my opinion, unforgivable. But I would still like to weigh it on the scale. We'll see. Because when you create a monster just to defeat a monster, I don't think you're cool. And they fully facilitated the rise of Adolf Hitler, along with Eastern Establishment, Skull and Bones, secret society families from the Yale East India Company University system. They all worked together to do it. And that's how America got blackmailed. Did you see Israel blackmailing the UK over that stuff? Because they funded the Nazis too. I haven't seen that list. Is there an Epstein list for London? Do you think Epstein was just confined to America? Oh, you guys haven't heard about that yet? Oh, that's interesting. It's fascinating. Well, we'll see what 2025 brings out. Go ahead, Scotty.
Seven just texted me and said, thank you for bringing up Thorstein Veblen. He's never heard that mentioned on another show before. And that's just the value that gets thrown out around here at Grand Theft World. Like, it's new facts that you're not going to hear anywhere else, you guys.
Yo, 7Cs, check this out. Thorstein Veblen. He's part of the philosophic corruption of reality. I would put him as like a second generation of Henri Saint-Simon, who talks. Patrick Wood talks about him in Technocracy Rising. Saint-Simon. So Thorstein Veblen's following. He's also related to Oswald Veblen, who influenced Norbert Wiener in cybernetics. So the Veblen's, I'm not sure if they're brothers or cousins, but they're related. So the idea of technocracy, conspicuous consumption, influences on John Kenneth Galbraith. Now, Galbraith's son was just on a show this past week, and I forget whose show it was, if it was Jimmy Dore's show or who it was, but I remember Galbraith and his influential development. And then Thorstein Veblen, he made the Journal of Race Development, which turned into the Council on Foreign Relations journal called Foreign Affairs. And then there's also a Journal of International Relations that preceded in between. So it went from Journal of Race Development to the Journal of International Relations to Foreign Affairs. And this is the whole concept. What is international relations? It's just basically the British, how they would like steer this country if nobody got in their way. And so you get to like the Kagan brothers. This one wrote Of Paradise and Power, America and the New World Order. And then when Douglas Murray was talking about NATO, like just talk about 1993, Toward a New World Order, U.S. in the Europe in the Future of NATO by George Soros. He presented he made a pitch at a NATO meeting. There's a pamphlet. Let's put that on the table, because now it's not Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. It's that NATO and Soros and the New World Order have been prodding Russia since the wall fell and encroaching time after time, getting NATO countries closer and closer to Russia to threaten them and provoke them, just like they provoked Hitler to invade Poland. So if you tell me that World War II started because Hitler invaded Poland and not because these Western establishment elites funded them, then I'd say then Ukraine also probably didn't start with Putin invading in Ukraine with the tanks in 2022, when there's like a 30-year history that precedes this. Just like 10/7 wasn't the beginning of anything. You'd been keeping those people in prison. Like, how many Palestinians were imprisoned by Israel prior to 10/7? They talked about hostages, hundreds of hostages. You got tens of thousands of people on the other side that aren't being weighed on the scale, that were illegally imprisoned without process. And I used ChatGPT. It was one of the 3 times I used it prior to last month. And I said, I'd like a report, and I have the report upstairs, on the number of Palestinians in prison by Israel without jury trial prior to 10/7. And it was a staggering number. And then I asked it for more resources. So that is a legit use maybe. But again, to 7C's point, I don't think we should like feed that monster too much. None. Let's serve it out, right? So, all that being said, twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. Life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game. What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come